we now have a conversation on building technologies for a sustainable global food chain with Taranjeet Singh Bhamra, founder and CEO Agnext, moderated by Kunal Bhardwaj, partner, the Rainmaker Group.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am here in conversation with Taranjeet Singh Bhamra, whom I fondly call as Taran. He is the founder and CEO of Agnext Technologies. Now, thanks, Taran, for being here, and thanks to Carnegie and the Ministry of External Affairs for giving us this opportunity to have this discussion. So, let's set the context straight. So, I've worked in some of the agri-tech firms in India and kind of seen this lay of the land from the trenches. And somewhere I always felt that the way we should see the food chain or the agri-tech space in India should be from a lens of, are the firms building agri on tech or are the firms building tech on agri? And for me, this became very important as a thesis when I started looking out for some of the great founders in India who are building fundamental first principle businesses to solve the issues plaguing the Indian agri landscape. And that's how I got to meet Taran. In fact, Taran has a very interesting background, and this I got to know when I met him first, that when he went to IIT, and usually one would always look for electronics or computers as the area of specialization. From that date, Taran did his specialization in agri, moved on to set up the supply chain for one of India's largest food brands. He goes to IIM Calcutta, and unlike people who have graduated from any of the IIMs, he does not choose a career in investment banking or management consulting or any of the top 5 firms. He goes and works for global food brands in setting up their food supply chains. After all this is done, he comes and hides himself in a very small town of India, actually not small now, it's decently sized, Chandigarh. And under the radar, in stealth mode, he starts building his dream called Agnex Technologies. So Taran, firstly, I think I want to hear it from you. And I want you to tell the audience what Agnext is and what is it trying to solve for the agri space, not just in India, but for the entire global food chain.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kunal. I think I landed up in Chandigarh because I like peace rather than the hustle and bustle of, Gurgaon and Bangalore. For me, building something that was, going to impact a larger world, it needed its own research, development, and time to scale. So my story actually starts at IIT Kharagpur, where, I used to study at Kendriya Vidyalaya. And while going through IIT, I used to always see dedicated to the service of the nation. And I used to ask, what is it that we are building for the nation here? For which I eventually went to IIT, chose agriculture, which is there only at IIT Kharagpur in 1950. And then worked in Indian rural sector to understand what are the problems in agri-value chains. And one of the things that I saw during that time was a farmer and his son, coming over to sell in a bullock cart in 2002. In the heat, they are trying to sell it, and the artiya or the mandi guy is not buying it by saying the quality is low. But what I found is that actually it was a great quality. He had produced a very good, but there was just being discarded off the supply chain by saying that it is not low. And finally, he bought it at 70% discount by keeping him outside the mandi for 7 days. I saw that farmer and son sitting, and that kind of had a huge impact on me. That whether you are a topper of the class or last of the class, you are given the same, you get the same job. So what's the incentive for a farmer? This is where is the biggest thing that frankly, if I would build a company out of basic principles, I asked myself after 20 years globally, I worked on multiple food supply chains globally and came back to India in 2016 to start Agnext. And my question was very simple that, what's the incentive that I can, or what's the value that I can bring for stakeholders? And the largest value unlock that I found was, again, from a very simple first principles, that whenever you are paid a price in agriculture. That price is based on two functions. The function one is quantity. The function two is quality. Now, the quantity is digitized, but quality is totally subjective across the world in food value chains. When you are pricing a spice, when you are pricing a milk, when you are pricing a grain, the entire quality is subjective. So we needed to build new technologies which can analyze food in less than a minute. And that's how we built technologies over the next 5 years which can analyze food in less than a minute using computer vision and spectral sciences. And then from the basic principles, it can ascertain or assess the lot that you are buying. That was the basic premise with which we started. And when we came out in the market out of Chandigarh was because of the mountains, nothing else. So, yeah, I have my own bike, which I don't even drive 25 kilometers now. But the idea was to build something which can be there in every transaction in a supply chain. And that eureka moment took us 5 years of research. And the moment we came into the market, I think since last year, we have grown 25 times in revenue. And this is just a start because we are just working in 2 trade routes and in just 1 commodity right now. We have around 24 commodities IP created to analyze food in less than a minute. So eventually what we are building is a platform of trust and incentive. So trust for the buyer, incentive for the seller. The moment the quality is digitized, everyone wants to be part of that. And my understanding after 20 years globally is that not necessarily that you have, when a business goes, there's a trust that follows. It's always the vice versa. Wherever there is a trust, business will follow. And I think this is where now whatever we are creating, whichever trade routes we are entering, we are finding that all the buyers and sellers want to be there because there is a trusted platform which evaluates, assesses the right pricing and the right quality, and all the buyers and sellers want to be there on that platform. We have been, I guess, we have been very thankful to have the best of the investors to, support this thesis. In India, we have Omnivore and Kalari. We have been supported by Abu Dhabi's government ADQs, AWI, and now just last week we have been invested by an arm of Swiss government also to integrate our entire technology with their blockchain and take it to multiple countries, especially cocoa and coffee. So I think this is where I am happy that what I saw, dedicated to the service of the nation probably will come up into dedicated to the service of the world.
No, that's really profound, Taran. So I think probably a couple of points that I'll take from what you spoke. One was about quality being one of the most important determinants of price discovery.
Yeah.
And second being about the example that you gave about the farmer and the sun. Because for me, when I look at agri as a business, I think in my head it comes as probably the only business where the producer has put in all the investments, the good has been produced, and yet they don't know what the price they're going to realize out of it. Probably in India, what the government of India tries to do is what we all know as the MSP. And then you're talking about a bit of a global play from the Abu Dhabi government or the Swiss government. My next question is going to be, in what ways are you collaborating with the Indian government in looking at removing the speculation and introducing the science in terms of measuring the price of food, and how are you looking at it from a global play in terms of a global food chain?
The answer is very simple, which has been, common across our newsroom, conferences, and daily conversation, MSP for farmer. So what you have seen is, as you rightly said, agriculture is probably the only profession where there is a, inflation on the input side and deflation on the output side. every year all the input companies keep increasing and the pricing on the other side keeps decreasing, and that's where the farmers talking about whether if I create a good product or a produce, how can I get the right MSP? I mean, the selling price, the quality that needs to be addressed. This is where our technology comes in, because thankfully over a lot of decades in our country, we have been very good at creating the quantity. We have gone to white revolution, we have done the green revolution, and done the yellow revolution. But in all of that, now the quality comes into fore. The next value unlock will not be the quantity, but will be the value or the pricing of the produce. And that is where our technology now needs to be sitting at every mandi, at every transaction point, so that the farmer realizes a trust that, when I come, I will be assessed and I will be paid accordingly. And I think this is what I have seen in the last 1 year also. The government is very hell-bent to, put this technology all across. We are overall in India, we are working at almost 1,600 locations where our technology analyzes the produce that has been bought. And there has been marvelous results. And this is a great data, because this also tells you about where what quality is being produced. So quality is nothing but the measurement of the output of agriculture. And this is where you can create, huge extension services. You can say that where you need to, do a better cropping, where you need to do a better output. But it also brings that trust to the farmer and an incentive that if I go and if my assessment is through digital technologies and not by some human assessment, which is subjective, it will lead me to a better pricing. So I think this is where we believe that it will cascade into a technology stack that will be there in agri-stack that the government is building. In fact, we have just been appointed onto the committee that will ensure that the entire buying process happens with technology in all the warehouses across India. So I think this is just a start, and I think the government is taking a huge, I would say, step in now digitizing these entire value chains. So I think we are addressing the 50% decision making, the quality. So I think that's where we believe we will play certainly an important role to solve for the nation's farmers.
And what about technologies that are being developed for enhancing the traceability and the sustainability across global trade corridors and global food chains?
Yes, I think this is becoming more important, because wherever food is moving now, it needs to be traceable. And all the assessments that have happened, all the storages that have happened, everything that is related to the movement needs to be captured and provided to the end consumer. I think this is just a start today, whether we are talking about fishery, whether we are talking about milk, whether we are talking about spices. That entire traceability component is increasing massively, and we are seeing that. That is why probably a lot of governments, not just Indian government, but a lot of governments are interested in our technology to, digitize from the source till the end consumer. So I think the whole idea that Swiss government's, blockchain, we are just kind of integrating is just because we believe that that will bring a huge impact in terms for consumers to assess the entire traceability of food. Yeah.
Good. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock as well. So what I'll do is, before I ask you the final question from my side, I'll just give a heads up to people in the audience in case you have any questions. So just keep them ready while I ask the final question to Taran. So Taran, it's interesting that today is again a momentous occasion and a great day for India, because today is when India takes on the presidency of the G20.
Yeah.
And food security, sustainable food chains is going to be one of the core areas on which the entire G20 would be working on. So if I were to ask you that, how can India lead the global presidency of the global agri-quality tech or the global agri-food chain, what would you?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a very proud, it's a very momentous day for sure, because India taking over the G20 marks a new stage for all the technologies that India has built that needs to be, pervaded and brought into multiple, I would say, industries. When it comes to agri and food, in fact, I would like to. I was with Minister Piyush Goyal ji in the Silicon Valley just last month for 4 days. He had selected Agnext to be one of the startups to be, talking about what are the technologies that India is building. And I had seen the vision of the government talking to, they were all the Silicon Valley investors and Silicon Valley technocrats. And the vision with which the minister, in the Indian government now is talking, for example, UPI, how UPI has changed the entire, payment industry in just 3 years, 4 years. Similarly, government is working on ONDC, if you would see. That is an amazing concept which totally, homogenizes your entire e-commerce stack. Currently, it is extremely heterogeneous. Moving on to ULIP, the United Logistics Interface is coming over. So these are great interfaces that the government has built which can now be scaled globally. And I think a lot of startups will be undertaking these activities to integrate and provide that as a service in multiple corridors. So I see that what the government has done with the G20 is an amazing, just a leadership, but I think there's a whole, I would say crowd of startups and innovators who are waiting to, integrate what the government has created and take it to multiple corridors. So I'm actually more excited about that because India is a land of innovators. We have thrived on innovation. And I think the time has come today to, make India or make Bharat go to the global food chains. So I think I'm extremely excited, and I would like to congratulate India to, our nation to lead this and take this forward in multiple food supply chains.
Thank you, Taran, and more power to you and the entire team at Agnext. I'm opening it up for questions. We have one there.
Yeah, hi. It was an interesting talk. This is Harita from Beehive Software Solutions. I wanted to understand if this Agnext helps in quality control, like even with the public distribution systems or across that value chain with rice fortification and other things. Does this help there, or is there anything else in the open source or open technology that's available for this?
Oh yes, I think there's a huge application in public distribution system for sure. Currently, we are not there in that. We are in mostly on the post-harvest value chain right now, where probably we are doing pulses, we are doing mustard, we are doing wheat. But in the public distribution system, I believe there is a huge application. There's so much of quality control that is needed. I know, I think it will be okay to say that, a lot of oil is adulterated, lot of things that are not as per the quality that is needed. And I think that is where our technology can assist that in a minute. For example, I got a call sometime back for sattu in Odisha. Almost around 300 crore of sattu is given to pregnant women, and it is not at all as per, the quality that is there. There's a lot of bad powder mixed, I won't like, but things which should not go into humans are, is part of just that 300 crore sattu to pregnant women in Odisha. So I think this is just one example. The examples are multiple, and each example is worth hundreds and thousands of crore of food. So I think technology now has to arrive to solve that food supply chain, and that's what our mission is as a company to solve. So we look forward to being PDS actually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Taran, I think we have a question from the right side of the room as well.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ayla. I'm a young GTS ambassador from IIIT Bangalore. I've also been working with Digital Green, which happens to work with Agnext as a design researcher for the past year. My main question is that you mentioned blockchain, and we're seeing in the agricultural sector that blockchain is being introduced more and more for consumer transparency. But we live in a market where it is a buyer's market, and farmers are being further distanced with this technology. So I was wondering what your views are when we're using something like blockchain and claiming that it's for farmers, especially since it's so new and complicated.
Inclusiveness is the key here. I think the technology is there. The problem with inclusiveness is two. One is the cost. the whole cost that is there today for application is extremely high. What we are coming up is probably 1/300 that cost that is currently there of a blockchain in a supply chain. So I think that will be one of the catalysts for us to, be much more faster. The second is inclusiveness, which cannot be just everywhere. What you need to do is you need to solve it supply chain by supply chain. So we want to go with, let's say, chili. So that entire supply chain from point A to point B should be digitized. The problem comes when, from a point A, we are doing it at 50 places where, again, there are no more, harbingers of those technology, and then you end up with, a total non-adaptation of this technology. So I think that's where we need to first focus on where the need is and take this as a larger mandate from point A to point B. Yeah.
Taran, I think we have run out of time. I know there's two more people who want to ask questions. Can we take it offline or yeah?
Yeah, sure.
We'll take it offline then. Really sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, and thank you, Taran. Wishing you all the very best on the journey ahead.
Thank you so much, Kunal. Thank you so much.